we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Jahani podcast. So I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm growing. So this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. So if you don't hear it, let me let you know up front. So I am recovering from the flu currently. And I am finally on that phase when I'm feeling slightly normal, like my old self. And I was like, let me take advantage of this time that I'm feeling myself so that way I can go ahead and start recording some episodes because these episodes will be airing in December, folks. December. Oh, hold on. I got a cough. All right. And December is a time when it's not just the holidays for most folks that celebrate, but it's usually the time when we're off from work and we're doing other things. So I definitely want to take advantage of the free time that I have now because in the month of December, I want to put more emphasis on my writing. And to give y'all a quick update, I felt like I haven't talked to y'all in a while, but that's because I haven't recorded in a while because so many things has happened. And to be honest, I haven't been my most creative self since I lost my dog, John. And it's in one of my episodes. It's hard to even listen to that episode. But if you don't think that is something that it will trigger you, go ahead and listen to it. But since that happened, that was such a big loss for me. And it took me really by surprise that I haven't really been able to unwind from that to the point where I can be creative. Because to be creative for me, it means that there's no weight on my shoulders weighing me down from flying and imagining things, because that's where I feel metaphorically where I am when I'm creating things, when I'm writing fiction. It's a little different when I'm writing nonfiction. It feels more, believe it or not, to be cliche, centered to the ground, more grounded. So this is a great segue for y'all. I am redoing a lot of my old blog posts because I migrated from Wix to WordPress, and I'll do a whole show on that, explaining that to you all. But during the migration, there was a lot of my old posts from way back in the day that didn't translate well. And these are posts from like 2012, 2013, 14, 15. They're all what I call creative nonfiction. And these are just things that have happened to me, a lot about relationships and dating and being single and learning and growing. And reading those posts validates how much growth I've done. That's one. It validates as well how I made the right choice to embark into blogging back then. And I'm so happy I did it. And if you're thinking about it, I encourage you to embark on it as well. I don't think you'll regret it. I didn't regret it. I don't regret it. And I'm finding myself more apt to embark into that. So I'm like knee deep in this creative nonfiction, writing these blog posts, and it's really putting me into this happy place right now. And I think once I'm done with that, I'll be in the right headspace to get back into fiction, because it really is, while they're both creative pursuits, for me, it really is two different headspaces to be in. Because with nonfiction, I do take, kind of like sometimes I do a little bit of research into it. I take that a little bit more seriously about the facts that I put there, the memories. I try to get those right. because it is nonfiction, right? So I want to really be more grounded in the truth and in what I know, as opposed to in fiction, right? That has a seed of truth in it, but it's just the seed, right? All the branches are imagination. They're all fake. So for fiction right now, after John, it hasn't been coming forth very easily. I did push myself to go into it, and I was able to get some things done. I'm glad I did that. And I'll continue to go from that point where I started and continue to push myself, not in a forceful manner, because that never really gives me great end results. That's not the kind of personality that I have. But I'll continue to push myself gently and kindly so that way I can get it done, because I know in the end I'm going to be happy with myself to complete and finish this project, because with every project that I finish, it is me teaching myself to finish what I started. And that for me, and I would think for any writer or any person that has creative projects, in creative pursuits, that is something that is important for us to teach ourselves and to ingrain those habits of, I'm starting something, I'm going to complete what I started. So with that disclaimer, let me tell y'all about the episode today. So it is November 29th today when I'm recording this episode, and we have just gone through the holiday in the United States known as Thanksgiving. And in this episode, I'm going to explain to you why I don't celebrate. Are y'all ready for this? All right, y'all gonna need to take off whatever defensive, agitating words that are like spewing inside your chest at this moment when you heard that. And take all of that off and put your listening ears on, like I used to tell my child, and let's have a chat. Okay? All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. So welcome to another episode of Have a Cup of Johnny. And we're going to dive once again into my lessons learned. If you didn't know, this season is all about growing. And this is something that I learned and grew from. So this was a choice that came about after I had learned about the truth behind the holiday. And let me explain something. The truth, right? The truth. So I like to think of the truth as being able to see the whole pie. Pun intended, right? Oftentimes, from my experience, living here in the United States, the truth is skewed per se, because sometimes, whether it's the media, whether it's education, whether it's a certain book, or whether it's a certain someone, right, just presents one side or one piece of the pie and presents that as the whole pie. And if one is unaware of that, right, that is just a piece, not the whole pie, then one will think that the pea it's it, right? That is the entire truth of it. And one will be content with just seeing that, just eating that, just being presented that. And then they don't go further from that until you turn around and somebody shows you what a complete pie looks like. And you're like, holy shit. So this is what the complete pie looked like all along? And then you look at what you were seeing, and that you see that little piece was in fact a piece of that, but it was so much more to it. That is what I mean by the truth. And that was, in essence, what happened here. Now, if you know me and you have listened to some of my other episodes here, you know I wasn't born in the United States. I immigrated to the United States. I was born in the Dominican Republic. In the Dominican Republic, we have no such thing as Thanksgiving. That is not a holiday for us there. So while I'm over here telling you that I stopped celebrating this holiday, I'm also telling you that it was not a hard thing to do for me because I don't have a whole legacy of celebrating this holiday or I haven't incurred a whole habit or, family members that are so used to just doing Thanksgiving every November, every year of their entire lives, because that wasn't my life before. So it was very easy once I saw the whole pie to let go of that. Okay. And so I do empathize with people that have created a whole habit of this, have created legacies and traditions when it comes to this. But I do ask people that while something is hard to do, I will tell you what I tell myself when I'm debating with moral or ethical issues with myself. I always ask myself, well, Johnny, what are your values? Does this align with your values? And if the answer is no, that doesn't align with my values, then there goes my answer. Whether it's hard to do or not, that is my answer. The execution is a whole different aspect of it. So saying that, well, I do empathize. I think we do have a moral responsibility to, once we know better, to do better. And that's in essence what I've done here, because I understood at the beginning when I got to the US that Thanksgiving was in fact that happy holiday of, pilgrims coming over to seeing the Native Americans, the Indians that lived in the area. And I remember, right, they showed us pictures, these little cartoons, and here comes this pilgrim with a turkey or a pie or whatnot, right? Highly inaccurate pictures, but we didn't know any better, right? I didn't know any better. And then it's just this happy story, right? And let me tell you what, in the Smithsonian magazine, there's this article here, and I'm going to give you the title of it. The Myths of the Thanksgiving Story and the Lasting Damage They Imbue. And it is by Claire Bugos. I hope I am saying their name correctly. And here it is. She is saying, this is the Thanksgiving myth. The myth is that friendly Indians, unidentified by tribes, welcome the pilgrims to America, teach them how to live in this new place, sit down to dinner with them, and then disappear. They hand off America to white people so they can create a great nation dedicated to liberty, opportunity, and Christianity for the rest of the world to profit. That's the story. It's about Native people conceding to colonialism. It's bloodless and in many ways an extension of the ideology of manifest destiny. So you see, when you heard that, I know when I read that, I was like, yes, that's what I knew. That's what I knew from American school, right? That's what I knew from what I was taught here in the United States, in the public school system of the United States when I did come over and started coming to school here. And it wasn't until I became an adult and I followed Native person and Indigenous person. And I don't know what tribe they're from, but they did a whole story. It was, I think it was on Instagram, and it was a whole story with sources, right? And they explained it in such detail, and it was like leading up to Thanksgiving, and they explained exactly what happened and how it is a day of mourning for them, not a day of celebration, because that day was a day where they lost a lot of people. So from that Instagram post, I was able to research a little bit further, go through the various links that they had, and I was able to go into the tribe's website and into the resources that they had there to understand it a little bit more, but most importantly, to understand how they saw the pie, to understand how their piece looked, right? And then when that happened, it was like a light bulb moment for me because I understood that before then, the only piece of the pie that I was looking at was the pie that was presented to me from the pilgrim's perspective. I had never seen the piece of the pie from the natives' perspective. Never, ever, ever, ever.
We'll be right back.
Are you ready to embark on a captivating journey of resilience and revelation? Get ready to immerse yourself in the extraordinary world of Isla Delgado, a 9-year-old girl who has experienced more than her fair share of trauma. Isla's life takes a dramatic turn when she's forced to live with her dad and his new wife for 6 months. Her anxiety intensifies as she becomes convinced that her stepmom is an evil witch. But Isla is determined to protect herself and expose her stepmom's true nature. As the gripping story unfolds, Isla discovers that things aren't always as they seem. Join her on a transformative journey of self-discovery, where she learns that even the most traumatic experiences can be triumphantly overcome with the power of love and understanding. People are saying, while the alarming trend of attempting to ban books continues in the United States, this book is a fantastic reminder of the power that books have. A child will read this story and feel seen, heard, and hopefully feel some peace. For children of the appropriate age, this book provides the opportunity for a wonderful exercise in empathy. The message of the story is truly something a lot of children out there and even some adults might need to hear. Mrs. Frenchie's Evil Ring and the 6 Months That Changed Everything is a heartwarming tale that explores the profound theme of family, trust, and the power of compassion. This inspiring story will leave listeners of all ages feeling uplifted and inspired. Don't miss out on this middle grade read and be prepared to be captivated by a story that will touch your heart and ignite your imagination. Mrs. Frenchie's Evil Ring is available everywhere books are sold.
In the almost at that point, close to 20 years, I had been living in the United States. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? So that right there, just put a pin on that one, right? Because that tells me that what is mainstream is the European POV in the United States. That's the POV that we see. So think about that. And think about that when you're reading things. Think about that when you're studying certain things. Because in fact, we are getting just one side. So that which we call the truth, if we only look at one side, will always be not complete. It will be incomplete. So remember that, okay? But back to my story. So when I read all the research, the various articles, and I tend to go on this rabbit hole per se, right? Because then one thing leads to another and leads to another. And then they talk about another source or another book. And then I go look at that. And then that book talks about, links to another research. And then I go look at that. So I was like pinging everywhere. And it was insane. And I look at my husband and I was like, and this was like after the second day, because when I'm in that research mode and kind of digesting mode of information, I get very quiet. I get very focused. I get very one track minded. It's a bit obsessive. really, for me. I don't know if that's healthy or not. I'll talk about it with my therapist. But after 2 days, I turned to my husband and I'm like, did you know any of this? And he comes from LA. He went to the public school system over there. I come from he's Mexican, I'm Dominican, right? We were both born in our respective countries and immigrated to the United States, but we went to school. He on the West Coast and me on the East Coast. And neither of us had learned any of this in the public school systems that we were part of. We were both under the same European narrative or pilgrim narrative. We didn't see the other side of the pie at all. But after I explained to him what I had just ingested and digested when it comes to information, we both looked at one another and I was like, we shouldn't be celebrating this holiday. It just came so naturally to me. It was just so matter of fact that I knew this was not something to celebrate. And I think I said something to like, and I hate turkey anyway. I think that's how it happened. I do. I'm not going to lie. I hate turkey unless it's deep fried. Okay. There you go. We can agree to disagree. But I hate turkey with a passion. I'll take ham all day, any day. Turkey, y'all can keep that. But we decided that same year, we was like, we're not going to do this. We just gonna do something differently. And my husband and I started bouncing back ideas of what we can do to make this a horrible moment in history that was being celebrated as a joyful celebration now, how we can turn that into something that can be hopeful. And my husband came with the idea of having a grateful week. So that entire week where Thanksgiving take place, we took it over. And that entire week is when we have these small feasts to celebrate something that we're thankful for, something that we have learned from. And we identify that at the table when we sit down, and everyone takes a turn, everyone that is at the table. Recently, the table has become very small because it's just my husband and I. We are, in fact, an empty nester household. So it's just been him and I. But before that, when we had either my child or his and my kids all together, it was a little bit more joyful. And what we would hear would be super, super entertaining at times. When my son turned into a grumpy teenager, it was even more entertaining, the things that he will voice as things that he was grateful. But that's neither here nor there, right? Going back down memory lane, going back to why I don't celebrate Thanksgiving is because of that. I found the whole pie to be what it is. And I decided that for me and for my household, that was not worth celebrating because that, in fact, is not a moment of celebration. And let me read you a little bit more, and I'm going to leave you with two things that you can go on and research. And if you're like me, you can go down a whole rabbit hole as well. Okay, when it comes to this. But let me read you a little bit more of this article here in the Smithsonian Magazine. It asks, what are the most poignant inaccuracies in this story? Talking about the story of the Thanksgiving story that we all know that is more mainstream in the United States. And the reply here is that one is that history doesn't begin for Native people until Europeans arrive. People had been in the Americas for at least 12,000 years, and according to some Native traditions, since the beginning of time. And having history start with the English is a way of dismissing all of that. The second is that the arrival of the Mayflower is some kind of first contact episode, and it is not. Wampanoags had a century of contact with Europeans. It was bloodied and it involved slave raidings by Europeans. At least two and maybe more Wampanoags, when the pilgrims arrived, spoke English, had already been to Europe and back, and knew the very organizers of the pilgrims' venture. I bet you not a lot of people knew that. I know before I started researching this story from the indigenous folks, from the Native American side, I did not know that. I too saw this story as the genesis being that Mayflower, right? I still had that colonial kind of frame of mind or point of view, kind of like how Christopher Columbus discovered Americas, when there have been indigenous people here all along. And subconsciously, I still carry that bias, even though before I found out about Thanksgiving, I already knew that Christopher Columbus didn't discover shit. I already knew that. But as you can see, I still carried on that bias because it had been ingrained in me, even from back in the Dominican Republic, where I'm from. They have statues of Christopher Columbus there, right? And things that he is like a symbol of something great, right? Even though we know now the true history, or some of us do, but it's still not very mainstream. So let me read a little bit more. Most poignantly, using a shared dinner as a symbol for colonialism really has it backward. No question about it. One Panoag leader, Wasamenki, reached out to the English at Plymouth and wanted an alliance with them. But it's not because he was innately friendly. It's because his people had been decimated by an epidemic disease, and Wasamenki sees the English as an opportunity to fend off his tribal rebels. That's not the stuff of Thanksgiving pageants. The Thanksgiving myth doesn't address the deterioration of this relationship, culminating in one of the most horrific colonial Indian wars on record, King Philip's War, and also doesn't address Wampanoag's survival and adaptation over the centuries, which is why they're still here despite the odds. You see? So it's little nuggets here that you can go and research even further. So that way you can dig a little deeper into that, because when you start reading books and essays, right, from Wampanoag people or Native Americans people that really detail why this is a day of mourning for them, then you really know that just like what this article states as the most horrific colonial Indian war on record, what it was really like for this tribe and other tribes that suffered from the pilgrims' colonization. When I read about those atrocities, that violence and the pain, I just knew there's no celebration here. So in my household, we will not be celebrating that, because that's not humane. It's not right to celebrate someone's pain. It's just, I don't even know how to turn that any other way to make it right. It's no way. So it was an easy no for me. So folks, there you have it. Sorry, this was a little abrupt in my delivery. I'm going to blame the flu on this one. But I hope you have learned something. And if you want to research some more, I'm going to put in the show notes this magazine article, as well as, hold on, let me give you this other one, Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. And it provides a critical perspective on American history, shedding light on the less savory aspect of the real Thanksgiving history. So that's one of the books in there. And I'm going to put it all on the show notes so that way y'all can go ahead and read some more at your comfort. Okay. But like I said, I hope that y'all enjoyed this and learned a little bit from it and really do what you must. I don't like to tell people how to live their lives, what customs and traditions they should have for their family. I really think that is to you and your family and your household. But try to look at the whole pie and not just pieces of it. Okay. And when you understand what your values is and what you stand for, then you just do what you must with that. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you here again next Wednesday. Don't let this flu scare you away. Come back. I'll feel better later. All right. See you next Wednesday. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.